as Hugh said, my name is John Curran. I'm Head of Sustainability at Musgrave. Many of you may have heard of Musgrave. Most of you probably won't know. We're probably much larger than most people realise. We're still a family company. We're owned by the Musgrave family and the employees. Originally founded in 1876. We're a retail, franchise distribution and wholesale company. We now have business in Ireland, the UK and Spain, and we're headquartered in Cork. Last year our turnover was in the region of 5 billion. So we're quite a large company, certainly from an Irish perspective, although quite small from an international perspective. What I'd like to try and give you very, very briefly, because we've been asked not to get into large amounts of detail, but just to give you an overview of where we are. What I want to try to do is maybe give you some flavour of the challenges that we as retailers face. We're often the ones on the front line when it comes to the consumer and organisational interface. So in other words, consumers often blame the supermarkets, retail groupings, whatever, for the issue of packaging. And what I want to try and give you is a flavour of what exactly the supply chain looks like and what the expectations of packaging are and why it may look the way it does. There's no doubt that consumers, and as Declan mentioned, we're now one of the better recyclers in Europe. There's no doubt that as a result of that, consumers in Ireland in particular have become very, very much aware of the amounts of packaging that actually appear in their houses day in, day out, week in, week out. Some of that has to do with the fact that they now have paperweight, and therefore they see on a daily basis the amount of packaging that they put in their green bins. There's equally, I suppose, a number of contradictions within that, in that we have had a huge change in demographics within Ireland, big drive for convenience, big drive towards or push towards single occupancy households. So all of these things that have driven convenience have also driven packaging growth. So there's no doubt that over the last 10 to 15 years we've seen meteoric growth in packaging, and that's reflected, I think, in consumer sentiment that this is a problem, and we recognise that is a problem. Equally, there are contradictions, I think, within what consumers want often. I did a very interesting piece of ad hoc research a year or so ago where we, as our organisation, took part in the Pat Kenny radio show, and we did some work in the SuperValu store in Greystones, where a lady called Valerie Cox was doing interviews with individual consumers as they were shopping. And it was very interesting to see the reasons and the reasoning behind the decisions that people made at the time when they chose to purchase a particular product. And in general, we were getting a bashing. The supermarkets were getting a bashing. We were pushing all of this packaging on people, and they didn't really want it. So we came to one lady, and she had a trolley full of packaged vegetables and fruit. And Valerie Cox asked her, well, why do you have so much packaging on your vegetables and fruit? She said, because I don't like people handling my fruit and vegetables. I like all this packaging. But in spite of what everybody was saying, only one couple had really made the choice to purchase sustainably, and that was a Belgian couple that happened to be staying in Greystones, were doing their shopping, and they made the conscious choice to only buy loose packed fruit and vegetables, to buy in bulk rather than to buy individual small packs, all of these kinds of things. So it's important, I think, to realise that so much of packaging depends on individual and personal choices. And what we're not about is preaching to or pushing people in one direction or another, but to offer them the opportunities to choose the packaging they want, but also to inform them so that they can make the best choice. We're, as Hugh mentioned, we're now taking part in the Irish government initiative on packaging. It's built very much along the lines of Courtauld in Britain, the Courtauld Commitment, which was named after the room in which the agreement was signed. It was effectively an agreement between the UK government and the largest retailers in Britain, and we were part of the core of the first group of retailers who signed up in Britain. And that set several targets around packaging, absolute packaging reductions, and food waste, which is also another big issue that's associated with packaging and packaging design. One of the things that has struck us, and I should say, of course, that Courtauld has met its first target, which is in halting the meteoric growth that there has been in packaging in Britain, which is reflected very much the same in Ireland. But one of the things that strikes us along the way is that there's, within government, there are a lot of misconceptions about packaging. There is a view out there that packaging is something that's been foisted on people, that it is, it's something that needn't be there. Now, the reality is, if you trace the evolution or the journey that a product travels on its life cycle, from the time it's manufactured, shipped, stored, distributed, sold, carried home, it's quite a trial that a lot of products have to go through. And consumers have an expectation around the quality, the integrity, the freshness of the goods that they buy, and therefore they equally have an expectation that the packaging must meet its requirements. And that's the dilemma that we have. Do we try to tweak packaging and make it better, but at the same time risk the quality and integrity of the goods that we sell? So that's something for you to consider maybe when you're asking questions later on. We also believe that this whole debate on packaging is not a retailer and consumer only debate. We believe that it has implications right across the supply chain. We're encouraging government not just to focus on the retail sector, but to involve also the manufacturers, the packer fillers, the brand holders, anybody that you can mention along the way. We think that in having a partnership approach, and we hope that the type of debate that we're having here this afternoon will inform people, will make us see, because we often live in silos. We understand our own area of business very well, but we may not understand the implications or the issues for other parts of the supply chain. So we believe that by working across the supply chain and vertically within the supply chain, that we will develop a better solution to packaging. There's no doubt that we need to challenge it. We as a business currently, we've just kicked off a project where we've now brought a team of experts in. We're examining our particular ranges of own brand, because that's the area that we have the biggest influence currently. We're examining our own brand. We're analysing it against what we would call best in class. And then we're developing a plan to move our packaging as close to, if not exceeding, current best in class. Now, sometimes the costs of moving outweigh the benefits in terms of the sustainability benefits or in terms of the cost benefits. But we make the judgment call product by product. So that's something that I don't have a whole lot of information on yet, but that we hope to develop in the future. So that's really all I want to say by way of introduction. I look forward to hearing what other speakers have to say and to hearing any questions that you might have as the afternoon goes on. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.